Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Cardinal HCM Leave Balance Zero Out Forum. We thank you for taking the time out of your afternoon to join us. My name is Elizabeth Dessenberg, and I will be one of your facilitators today. Our forum today is scheduled from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m., and we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us. We are eager to demonstrate the new page, discuss its functionality, and review the best practices already in place to help you navigate this process efficiently. So first, we'll discuss the current process for managing leave balances for terminated employees. We'll discuss the new exciting leave balance zero out page features, and then we'll provide a demonstration of the leave balance zero out page and the process. We'll discuss some important reminders and best practices, and then finally, we'll end the presentation with resources and support. I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to our presenter today.
Hey, I'm Susie Hilton, and I'm on the TA team, and I'm so glad that you all could join us so that we could present our brand new page, the Leave Balance Zero Out page. So I want to just start by reviewing just some best practices before we zero out balances for our terminated employees. So managing leave balances for terminated employees, you always want to make sure that all leave has been finalized. All absence events have been submitted, they've been approved, and they've been processed. Any overtime comp leave has been submitted, approved, time admin has run, and it's processed those. So all that leave should be managed, reviewed, before moving on to paying the employee out through Spot. So before we zero out any of those balances, we want to make sure they have also been, any applicable balances have been paid out through Spot. So coordination between supervisors, sometimes working again with the employee, but between supervisors, TL admins, AM admins, and your PY admins is really important for this process, as you're already aware, because you're doing it and you've been doing it for the last few years. So once everything's been finalized, the payouts have been confirmed, and it is then time to zero out your leave balances. You can do it the same way you've been doing it on the absence adjustment page for those absence types, and on the timesheets for comp and overtime leave by using that comp and overtime payout TRC. But now we have the new leave balance zero out page that allows you to zero out absence balances and comp and overtime balances using the same page. Before you're ready to zero out balances, you do have to identify those terminated employees that still have a balance, and there's no change to this process. You can use the inactive employee with balances query to identify inactive or terminated employees that still have a leave balance, and to identify the specific leave types and the balances that require adjustments or payouts. This query is going to have the most updated results as of the last time time admin ran. Time admin runs every 2 hours throughout the day. And for the absence balances, it's going to have that balances as of the last time absence calc ran, and that runs every night. So this query is showing the balances as of the last time time admin ran and the last time absence calc ran. This query can be run a few different ways. There have been no changes to this query, so you can run it for all the BUs that you have access to. You can run it for just one BU. You can run it for just one employee. There's multiple ways that you can run this query, and this query will pull all of the remaining balances for all employees with for any date range that you select. So this query will still be useful for you, even though you can now use the new zero out page, because there have been no changes to this query. So it's still a useful tool for you to utilize. Now we're going to roll into the leave balance zero out page and some of the features, key features on this page. So this is a page that you can use to zero out. It's a single page that you can use to zero out the comp, leave, and the absence balances. And I did check this morning, and it's excited to see that we've had about 67 absence balances that have already been zeroed out using this page, and about 10 comp or overtime leave balances that have been zeroed out using this page. So excited to see that y'all have already jumped in and started using it. And we hope that you're loving it and that that's been a smooth process so far. As you have questions or as you've been using it, if you already came with some questions, go ahead and feel free to go ahead and start dropping those in the chat. And I can kind of incorporate answering some of those questions while I'm doing the demo, which is coming up next. Or we do have some others online that can answer some of those questions through the chat. So don't feel like you need to hold your questions. As those questions pop in your mind, go ahead and feel free to drop those in the chat. But this page, I'm so excited that y'all have already been using it, and hope that it alleviates some of the keying mistakes that we know have been happening in the past, where because you were having to manually key those balance adjustments on the absence adjustment page or on the timesheet. We're hoping that this is an easier process for you, a little bit less cumbersome, and will be a useful tool for you. But again, you can continue to do it manually if you want. But some things to point out on this page, you'll be able to select multiple balances for an employee to zero out, or you can zero out multiple employees' balances at the same time using this page. This page is going to automatically generate the offset adjustment. So it's going to automatically insert that negative absence adjustment on the absence adjustment page. And it's going to automatically insert that comp leave payout or overtime leave payout using the appropriate time reporting codes, including if chart fields are required, it will insert those chart field values as well right onto the timesheet. So the page is going to do that for you, and you'll be able to validate that on the timesheet, on the absence adjustment page, by running the timesheet report, by running the absence adjustment query, any of the ways that you validate those entries that were manually inputted. You can also validate those in the same way, using the same way that if you've used the leave balance zero out page. One thing to note with the leave balance zero out page, as you are all aware, we have a 1-year retro limit, which means that we only allow you to zero out balances, update balances, manage time, or absence data up to 1 year in the past. And because of that retro limit, we've limited this page to only pull in transactions within a year. You can use the query that we talked about previously if you want to take a look at more, but if you want to see, outside of 1 year, but the page is only going to pull in 1 year. So we'll go ahead and jump in our to the demo. Today I am using our training environment. So we've renamed some of the employees, and the training environment may be a little bit slower since it's a non-production environment. It may be a little bit slower than what you experience in production. And also the other thing to note with the training environment is this is a copy of production from July of 2025. So even though I just told you you're only going to see balances as for the past year, to zero out on this page, keep in mind that in the system, we are in July 2025. So that's why you're going to see some of that historical data that you won't see if you're following along in production. So to navigate to the new page, we're going to go over here to the navigator icon. We're going to go to menu, global payroll and absence management. And then we have our new page, the leave balance zero out page right here. You'll recognize this looks very similar to the query that we were talking about earlier. So for those of you who are used to running that query, you'll notice that this looks very similar. And that's because it is pulling, it's using some of the same logic to pull that data in. So this is going to look and be very similarly responsive as the query is, with some of those differences, like the business unit here is required. With the query, you can run it if you have access to multiple business units, you can run the query for multiple business units. But we have restricted that on this page for performance reasons, because it's going to load on this page and it's a very interactive page. Limiting the amount of data that we're pulling into the page will make the performance so much better. So you will notice that if you click on the lookup icon, you will have the same access. So if you have access to, one BU, you're only going to see your one BU. If you have access to multiple BUs, then you'll be able to select those from here. So for this demo, I'm going to be demoing using one of these business units. The performance is going to be significantly faster if you narrow the search down to just one employee, or if you've been in and out of the page and your cache has been built up, the page is going to work more quickly. The first time you log into this page and you are searching, if you are using broad search parameters, it may take a little bit longer, but just know that it will get quicker as you build up your cache and using this page. There is a checkbox here for comment for all selected balances, and you can enter your comment here. So we have those options here. And then you'll see you can select over here. We have our view all. So I've got 47. We're only seeing 10 of them right now. So I'm going to go ahead and view all so we can load our others. And again, this looks very similar to the results. If you've been using the query, it looks very similar. One thing that I do want to point out is if there is a negative balance. So here for Sugar Snacks has -16 of other leave. You'll notice here, and I can maybe zoom in a bit so it's a little easier to see. The checkbox for that negative balance is disabled. You cannot use this page to zero out or manage negative balances. It will show on this page, but you will not be able to zero out or manage those balances from this page. And, as you know, if there's a negative balance, that is because there's something that needs to be reviewed and corrected in the employees' balances. So we would suggest if you were going in to zero out Sugar's balances, you would not zero out any of them if there's a negative for one leave type, because you need to go back and review and make sure that all leave is and all balances are accurate and corrected before zeroing out on this page. So the page, like I said, it's going to bring in all the leave types, the comp, the overtime, and all of the absence balances for the employee. So I want to show you a couple of the features. Sorry, 1 second. By focusing in on just one employee. So like I said before, if you narrow your search results, your page is going to be faster. It's going to be easier to review the data. So let's narrow it down to just one employee. And I will show you. And it's usually faster. Like I said, this is the training environment. And so it is a little bit slower than what you would expect in production. All right, so here we have Cinnamon Crunch and we have um, absence balances and we have a comp leave balance that needs to be zeroed out. I want to point out we now have a new checkbox. We did not have this checkbox earlier when I only used business unit as my search parameter. And that's because if your search parameters include multiple employees, if the results are going to include multiple employees, you will not be able to select all. And this is to avoid mistakes in mass processing or mass zeroing out more employees than you intended to. So you only will have the select all checkbox when when you've selected to search by employee. So here I can click select all, and since all of these are positive and I have already confirmed that the balances are good, the payroll administrator has already made the payout to the employee through Spot. I've already double checked all of that. I can go ahead and select all of these, put in my comment, and I'm making a very generic demo comment, but we always recommend your comments are specific for your auditing, for your team members, if they're reviewing someone's balances, that they'll be able to understand why these balances were zeroed out or adjusted. So the more specific your comments are, the better. You can do the comment for all here by selecting this checkbox, or if you leave this checkbox deselected, you can enter specific comments here for each absent or leave type. But I'm going to go ahead and comment select for all with my one comment. Once I've done that, I can go ahead and click the submit button. We do have notes down here I'll draw your attention to. Here, let me zoom in a bit so you can see that more clearly. This is just a reminder that the offset adjustments for the leave balances submitted are going to automatically be inserted upon submission. Again, these are being inserted in the same places where you would have keyed them manually. You can review the calculated results the next day. Remember, absence calc runs every night. Time admin runs every 2 hours. So you can check these results using the employee leave report after processing. And another reminder here, negative leave balances cannot be zeroed out on this page. Then once we have reviewed, we can go ahead and click submit. When we click submit, we're going to have a pop-up message, and this is to certify. This is you certifying that you have done all of the reviews and everything is good to go. So this message says the selected leave balances have been reviewed and confirmed to be accurate and final. All eligible balances have been paid out by a payroll administrator using the Spot tool or single-use payroll online tool. By proceeding, you acknowledge that all necessary payroll actions have been completed and the selected leave balances are ready to be zeroed out. We've already confirmed everything. We are good to go. So I'm going to click OK. And now you see they drop from the page immediately. That means now the page has inserted those into the timesheet. So we're going to go and I'm going to show you where you can see that. So first, we're going to go and look for that comp time. So I'm going to go to team time. I'm going to go to the employee's timesheet. That balance, that employee's term date was in July. So it was inserted for July 6, 2025. go to the timesheet for that day. And there I can see the comp time payout for 8 hours has been inserted. After time admin runs, then this will be processed as payable time. It's not going to show there yet because time admin hasn't run. That runs every 2 hours, but you can go ahead and confirm that the row has been inserted. And here you can see the comment. You can see the source where this was entered by the zero out automation page. And you can see that the comment there is what we entered on the page. Now we're going to go to Query Viewer, because I think that that is a really great way to quickly confirm that the absence adjustment went exactly in the pay period that you were anticipating. So we can run the absence adjustment query. You could also go to the online page and check there. But I can come here and I can run this query just for the one employee. And here I can see those 3 balance adjustments were inserted. The negative adjustments are here. The comment is here. Now, these will all be processed when absence calc runs overnight. So let's go back to our leave balance zero out page. And there's a couple of things that I want to draw your attention to here. So if I come back to this page and I search for this employee again, all of those balances are going to show up again. And the reason they're still here is because time admin hasn't run yet and absence calc hasn't run yet. So these have already been keyed. The rows have already been inserted, but if you refresh the page, or if you were to check on the query for those inactive or terminated employees with a balance, these would still show up there because they're not going to drop off until the leave has been processed by time admin and absence calc. One thing I wanted to point out, and I forgot when I was initially on the page, is the termination date is here and the balance as of date. So the balance as of date is the date that the page is using to insert is where the adjustment is going to be inserted. So this is the date that you would look to determine where you needed to go on the timesheet to confirm that the comp and overtime was paid out, zeroed out, and the pay period where the adjustment was keyed. So you would use that balance as of date. So we would look here in the 7/9 pay period, and we would look on the timesheet on July 6th to see that entry, which I showed in the demo, but just wanted to draw your attention to those are the dates that you would be, where you would be looking for where the page inserted the data. Now, sometimes we come back to the page, we've done some work and we come back to the page and we might try to zero these out again because maybe we forgot we had already done it, and because they're still here, we try to zero them out again. If that happens, you are going to get that same pop-up message. Hey, remember, make sure you reviewed everything. So we're certifying that all the balances are good. You're always going to get that pop-up message as that reminder. And then if these absences and leave balances and leave balances have already been zeroed out, then you're going to get a pop-up message. So because we've already done it, that's why we got the message. Another time you would get a message like this is if another adjustment had already been made on that day. Maybe somebody did it manually, maybe maybe someone zeroed out the absence balance and then somebody went back and made changes to the employee's absence data, then you will that balance adjustment or that row is already there. And just like today, if there's already something there, you can't insert another row. And you know that from doing it manually. If the data is already there, you can't just add another row. It's the same, the page can't just add another row there or is not going to just add another row there. Instead, just like you do today, you have to go to that line item or that transaction and edit it if it's not accurate. So if you got this message and you had not in like we just zeroed these out. So we know that we just zeroed these out and that's why we're getting this message because they haven't been processed yet. But if you get this message and you thought that the balances were good, then you would need to go and review the balances again to determine why an adjustment was already there and why the and make those manual adjustments or manual changes, just like you do today and just like you would have to do if the employee has a negative balance that you need to manage. But this message says the highlighted transactions cannot be processed because a balance adjustment is currently pending or has already been applied. Please review and resolve the adjustment before proceeding. In our case, we know these are highlighted because the adjustment is currently pending. And tomorrow, if I came back to the page, these would have dropped because they would be processed tonight by absence calc and they would be processed by time admin. I want to pause here and see if there are any questions that we want to address while we're still in the system in case we need to demo.
Susie, Kranti's answering some of these, but in case somebody's not monitoring chat, a couple of these might be helpful. Can you enter a zero out if there has not been a termination entered on job data?
So this page and the query that I was referencing earlier is only going to pull in balances for employees that have been terminated as of job data. So you could not use these pages if the employee has not been, this page, if the employee has not been termed. And I would not recommend you zeroing out balances before the employee is termed because it's important that before they've been termed on job data, because it's very important that they're termed on job data, that the full review has been completed to make sure all of the balances are all good before before you zero and if the employee was eligible to be paid out, that they be paid, that all of that is done before you zero them out. If you're asking because there are other scenarios where you need to zero out balances, you would still need to do that manually as well, because this is specifically for zeroing out balances for termed employees.
Can you use the zero out page for DLR?
Yes, this is going to pull in any leave balances that the employee has. So if the employee has DLR at the time that they termed DLR balances that need to be zeroed out, then yes, you could use this page to zero it out. But again, if you're just wanting to zero out DLR for an active employee, you can't use this page. You would have to do that manually, just like you do it, just like you've been doing it.
That's all.
Any other questions
for right now?
Okay. So we just have a few reminders, and I'm going to sound a little bit like a broken record because I've said a lot of these things multiple times already, but we wanted to throw them on the slide just because they are so important. Verify that all the balances are correct and that all the hours eligible for payout have already been paid out through spot. Confirming that with your payroll administrator is really important. If a balance adjustment already exists, that row is going to be highlighted in red, and that's something that I just demoed. So if the balance adjustment has already either been manually keyed or it's already been inserted by the page, then you are going to get that notification because it's going to be highlighted in red, meaning you just need to go back, review the balances either on the timesheet or the absence adjustment page, just to verify that everything is good, make any changes that you need to make. And again, you can't use this page for negative balances. Negative balances must be resolved using the absence adjustment page. The reason for that is because negative balances are always the result of a data issue or a mistake. And so resolving negative balances always requires some review, analysis, and then a manual adjustment. And then because we get this question all the time, and I've said it a whole bunch of times today, but the time administration process, that is what's processing the comp leave and overtime leave payouts. That process runs every 2 hours. And absence calc is processing the absence balances, and that runs every night. One thing that I am not sure if I clarified is if you are ready to zero out balances and you realize, oh, there is one more correction that needs to be made. I found this absence that was saved. You submit it, the supervisor approves it. You need to wait to zero out the balance through the page after absence calc has run. So anytime you have made any changes to absence or leave data, you need to wait to zero out. If you're using the zero out page, you need to wait until time admin and absence calc have run. All right, just want to see if there are any other questions.
We do have a few more rolling in, Susie.
All right,
The
perfect.
first one is, what if it's after 1 year? Then what do we do? Is there no way to zero it out?
So this is an existing, it's the same as it is today. We really encourage you to stay on top of these things. We have that 1 year retro limit where you only have access to update data for 1 year. So if it is more than 1 year in the past, that will stay there in the system. And you would need to make note that, if the leave had been paid out, make sure that you have those records, that those balances will remain in the system. There is, there are downstream impacts to not zeroing balances out. And one of those impacts is if the employee is rehired, because some absence balances are not going to expire, like vacation. So if the employee was paid out for their vacation hours when they left their position, and then in 6 months or a year, they are rehired. When they're rehired at the same agency, because it's using the same info record, they may have access to those balances that are not zeroed out. So it's very important that you are zeroing out absence balances for employees that have termed. If you are running into this issue where you had an employee that their balances were not zeroed out, it was more than a year ago, and you've rehired them, and now they have access to balances that they shouldn't have access to, then you would just need to adjust their balances accordingly. And if you run into that issue and you need assistance in analyzing and determining how best to manage that situation or that scenario, that's a great time to open a ticket and let us help you. And so we would be happy to look at that data with you and help you determine the best course of action.
Okay, then we have a couple of questions regarding PAR leave. Will this page remove remaining PAR leave at termination? We found that to manually remove the PAR for a terminated employee, you can use the term date as the event date in the comments. And we could certainly ask Deborah Abbott to come off mute and if you need clarity on that question.
Yeah, I would like to understand the question better, please. They're saying that it's required for the comment, or they're using it? Is it a question, or is it?
Deborah, can you come off mute and clarify that?
I think we need to take her off.
Oh, we need to take you off mute. Sorry, Deborah.
And I think that what you're referring to is because when you do enter a parental leave adjustment, you're required to enter the birth date or adoption date.
So yes, that is correct. So we have people who term who may have a PAR balance left, or they transfer out and have a balance left. We have found that you can still remove that balance by going to the absence adjust page, doing a negative for the amount of hours that are remaining. And because there's a date required in the comments, we found that you can simply put the term date and as the event date, and it will remove the balances. But my second question was, will this new zero out also remove parental leave, or do you run into the same situation where you need to possibly do this workaround?
So I know in the past, we've recommended that if there are parental leave hours that have not been used and the employee terms or the parental leave hours are going to expire after 6 months, the employee will not be able to use them and the hours expire. But if those hours need to be adjusted or zero out prior to 6 months, what we have recommended in the past is that you go to that original adjustment and you reduce that original adjustment. So if you gave 320 hours, but the employee only used 300 hours, then you would reduce that original adjustment from 320 to 300.
But then isn't that an audit point? Because it looks like then per policy, they're allowed 320, but you only gave them, say, 100. So to me, that's an audit point and not a proper paper trail.
We have also recommended that you document that through the comments in the adjustment, but we can definitely take this offline and discuss it as a policy related question, and then we will follow back up with you.
Great, awesome. And then the second one, will the tool remove those? I'm assuming based on your prior comments, then the tool is not programmed to remove the parental leave.
That is correct. So just a quick review of some of the ways that you can validate that leave balances have zeroed out and updated as expected. You can run the balances for inactive employee query. You can revisit the leave balance zero out page. You can run the employee leave report for the current open period. And you can also yeah, I mean, and any of the ways that you typically review your employee balances, you'll be able to do that. The thing that you want to keep in mind, and it's noted on this slide as well, is the process timing. So make sure that you're not trying to review and check those balances before they've had a chance to process. So comp and overtime every 2 hours. And for the absence balances, you've got to wait until absence calc runs, and that runs every night.
Is there a list of leave types that the tool does not support?
We will also follow up with that. So when we follow up about the parental leave question, we will also include a response to this question. And we'll make sure that we send that to all attendees. So just a quick reminder of some of the resources that we do have available. The TA 374 Managing Absence Balances job aid, that is the job aid that was sent out with the COM. And that's the job aid where we updated to include instructions on how to use the Leave Zero Out page. And then here are just some tips on how to run a query, how to run a report. As you are using this page and you have questions, you need anything at all, just submit that ticket through the CCC and we will be happy to work with you. We hope that you enjoy using the new page and that you find it helpful and beneficial. I'm going to pass this back over to Elizabeth to us up.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. As Susie mentioned, if you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to submit a ticket. Our wonderful TA team will be happy to help. Have a wonderful day.